I was going through my comment section the other day, and, well, it's one day ago, yesterday, and I saw this comment here. This is from a user named Porlica, or Porlak. I do not know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Please tell me how to pronounce it correctly in this video. But the question was, I have a question that I wanted to ask you. For Tiamat, how would you do a budget mana base centered around dragons? I studied the mana base videos, and I have them in favorite on my Mox field. I have the Draconic Rage precon, but I'm struggling with an appealing 5-color dragon mana base. Thank you for all of your videos. I love your channel so much, and keep it up. And to which I said, I can whip something up for you. And how does something like this look? Unfortunately for me, the way my brain works, I wasn't able to make just a mana base for that deck. I instead just made an entire budget Tiamat deck. So, I hope you guys are okay. Today's video is going to be a $50 Tiamat deck. Sorry about that. Tiamat is a whopping 7-mana dragon god commander, and whenever Tiamat enters the battlefield, if you cast it, search your library for 5 dragons not named Tiamat and shove them into your hand. Oh boy, this card is a lethal piece of tech. Being able to tutor any 5 dragons, this is not the kind of deck I would normally build, because I really don't like tutors, but I really did not want this entire deck to go to waste. I built it so that I could make the 5-color mana base, and just, it came out the ass end with this entire thing. So let's talk about our strategy. We are going to be trying to make lots of big dragons touch the board, beginning with Miriam Sentinel Worm. Miriam says anytime we drop another non-token dragon on the board, we clone it. Decadent Dragon also gives us treasures when it swings and lets us yank 2 cards from an opponent's library. Broodmate Dragon is my favorite dragon in Magic the Gathering, and it spawns tokens. Wreath Liberated Primeval says that other dragons we have get Ward 2, and at the beginning of our end step, if a creature or a planeswalker an opponent controlled was dealt excess damage, we get a 4/4 red dragon creature token. Atarka Worldrender gives all of our dragons double strike. Thrakis gives all of our dragons double power. Broodmate Tyrant gives us extra red dragon when it touches the board and has Encore. Hellkite Overlord is the biggest dragon in all of Jund. And then we have Hellkite Charger that has flying, haste, and whenever it attacks, we can pay 7 mana in order to get a brand new combat phase. We're also going to be reanimating dragons using Teneb the Harvester. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we can pay 3 mana and grab any creature from our graveyard put on the battlefield. And Bladewing the Risen does that when it touches the battlefield, also giving us access to a Omni Fire Breathing effect, as well as everything else it is doing. Honestly, I need to make a Bladewing the Risen deck at some point. The card's just really, really powerful. That all said, this is a very straightforward deck. You put Big Dragon on the board, and you aim it at somebody's throat, and then you see exactly how much you can make the throat get gashed open. But we do need to have a pretty hefty draw engine, because even with our commander, we need to make sure that we have a consistent way to get cards in our hand. So let's go ahead and go over that. We are running a 12-card draw engine with one of my favorite cards of all time, Two-Headed Hellkite. This thing's silly. Flying, menace, haste. Whenever it attacks, draw 2 cards. That is just perfect. That's perfect for a deck like this. Rishkar's Expertise draws us cards based on the biggest power we have and lets us get a free spellcast. Return of the Wild Speaker does the same thing without the free spellcast. Up the Beanstalk draws us a card whenever we cast a spell with 5 or more mana, which is most of the ones in this deck. Unexpected Windfall draws us 2 cards and makes us 2 treasure tokens by discarding a card. Same thing with Big Score, and same thing with Seize the Spoils. Though Seize the Spoils only makes us 1 treasure token. Garrick's Pack Leader and Garrick's Uprising will spawn us a card from our library anytime we draw, or anytime we play a dragon, basically. And also Garrick's Uprising gives our non-trampling dragons trample. And for our dragons swinging at our opponents, we have Coastal Piracy, Bident of Thassa, and Reconnaissance Mission to draw cards every time one of our dragons swing and punch somebody in the throat, which will be often. That said, that's a lot of draw power. Let's get into removing our opponent's stuff from the game, shall we? we are running a 13 card removal package, and honestly, most of these are just dragons doing the work for us, which is kind of what you want anyway. Let's begin with Lausanne Dragon's Legacy. Anytime we cast a dragon, this will deal damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that is not a commander. We can use Negate to get rid of a non-creature spell from the stack. Foe Razor Regent fights anything when it touches the board. Tyrant of Kerr Ridge deals 4 damage to anything whenever we cast it. Gluttonous Hellkite makes our opponent sacrifice X creatures, and then it gets 2 1/1 counters for every creature sacrificed this way. Frontier Siege makes all of our dragons fight people. Scourge of Valkas will deal X damage equal to the number of dragons we control to anything. Drakaseth Maw of Flames will deal 4 damage to one target and 3 damage to 2 other targets anytime it swings. Beast Within can get rid of any problematic card on a board. Witch Enchanter can blow up any artifact or enchantment. Bridgeworks Battle lets us make a dragon fight something. Colony Ambush makes a dragon fight something. And Stump Stomp makes a dragon deal its power to any target. And these are all in here because they are wonderful MDFCs that we can flip to do whatever we need. Speaking of MDFCs, we are also going to run Ondu Inversion. It blows up all non-land permanents and, of course, can be the Ondu Sky Ruins on the backside, and Incinerator of the Guilty, which lets us deal combat damage to a player and collect evidence X, and when we do, we deal X damage to every creature and planeswalker they control. That's just taking the combined mana value of cards we exile out of a graveyard into account, which is very easy since our deck is comprised of really high-costed cards. That's it for the removal section. We need to figure out how to afford all of these cards, so let's talk about ramp and mana real quick. Oh, this is a 22-card ramp package because everything in our deck costs an exorbitant amount. So let's go ahead and talk about each and every one of these, shall we? Castlem Stone Tree lets us look at the top 6 cards of our library and put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. You'll understand why we're using a lot of this ramp here soon. Elvish Rejuvenator lets us look at the top 5 cards of our library and put one of those cards in the battlefield tapped as well. Planter Genesis does it for 4 cards and puts one of them into the battlefield tapped, or puts any of those cards in our hand. Rapacious Dragon, Patron of the Arts, and Swashbuckler Extraordinaire all give us treasures when they touch the board, with the Extraordinaire being able to throw Double Strike onto our cards as well. Honored Heirloom is the Rainbow Rock that can go in every deck because it lets us blow up cards from graveyards when we need. Jade Orb of Dragonkind gives us Hexproof for our dragons. Lapis Orb of Dragonkind gives us Scry when we tap it for our dragons, and Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind gives us red mana that we can use to make our dragons have haste. Ganex Astral Hunter makes treasures when any dragon touches the board. Search for Tomorrow gets any basic land from our deck onto the battlefield. Bounty of Skemfar lets us look at the top 6 cards of our library and put a land from among them on the battlefield. Savage Ventmaw generates 6 Gruul mana whenever it swings. Revaz the Claw makes 2 mana that we can use to cast dragons, and it gives us dragon recursion as well. Arcane Signet and Fell War Stone are 2 mana rocks every deck has access to that work out at amazing speeds. Farseek and Nature's Lore can get forests and non-forests respectively from our deck. Dragon's Horde is one of the best mana rocks we have access to for dragons, as it can also draw us cards. Feybarrow Elder will give us mana for every color among permanents we have, which sometimes will just be 5 mana. And Soul Ring, because it's Soul Ring. Don't at me. I'm so tired of this card in Magic the Gathering. And now for the part of the video that they actually asked for, the mana base. So if you remember the mana base from my original video, it looked kind of like this, with 2 of each basic land, 46 lands total, 12 fetching lands, 5 filter lands, 2 omni lands, 10 pain lands, 5 of the tango lands, the single triome with Murmuring Bosk, and a Pit of Offerings as an easy utility land piece. Now, if you are changing this over to a dragon deck, we need to swap a few things around. First of all, green mana becomes far more important, so we're going to cut every basic land down to 1, except for the forests. We're going to go up to 3 forests. Now note, this is why we have so many cards that are going to yank lands from the top of our deck, because we will run out of basic lands very quickly if we are constantly relying on those. We're also running 8 fetching lands instead of 12. We don't need the Ash Barrens as much. We still want to run the Crozen Verge, but we've cut the Myriad Landscape out of the deck. Ash Barrens is still here, but Myriad Landscape is gone. Verge is in because it can grab 2 non-basic lands from our deck, and we've kept only the landscape lands that can grab green mana from the deck, as that is what we are running 3 of with our forests. Then as far as the filter lands, we are running all except the Orzhov filter from the original list, and this is because if you look at the actual mana spread of the deck, the 2 least represented colors are black and white, and blue with another equal representation, which is low. We are mostly in the Gruul mana colors, and when you're playing a 5-color deck, this is kind of what you want to be at anyway, because it lets your deck play with a smoother mana curve. So, given this, we are cutting out anything that does not have red or green mana. So our filter lands get to stay in because each one of these taps for red or green and another type. Our Omni lands, we get to add in Unclaimed Territory and Secluded Courtyard because they give us any mana we need for any creature as long as they are a dragon. As far as our Pain lands go, just like with the original idea with the filter lands, we are cutting out any land that does not produce green or does not produce red. This means that we have lost every land that only operates in the Esper colors. Moving onto the Tango lands, we've kept 4 of them because, again, we need to keep only the stuff that gives us red and gives us green, with the exception of Prairie Stream. And the only reason we've kept Prairie Stream is because it is a Plains island, and we need to have another Plains to fetch out with our Verge. Otherwise, we may end up finding ourselves mana screwed. We've kept the Murmuring Bosk so we can do the fun play of playing Verge, cracking it from Murmuring Bosk, and getting Murmuring Bosk and Prairie Stream. As for our utility lands, we've supplemented the Pit of Offerings with 3 of the Hideaway lands in order to make sure that we have access to more free spellcasts as we need. All in all, this mana base, while being very big at 44 lands, is comprised of 5 MDFCs, leaving us with 39 dedicated lands, which is about where I generally will be in a WUBRG deck. I think that a deck can afford 34 lands when it's a one color deck, 36 at 2 color, 37 at 3 color, and 38 to 40 at any other color variety, unless you are running a landfall deck, in which case you just need to be running more basic lands anyway. That said, let's talk about how this deck plays, since we're done with the most important part anyway. We want to keep any land that any hand that has 2 to 3 lands, a couple ways to ramp, and some draw. And if you look at our hand, we have 1, 2, 3 ways to ramp, 2 lands, and some draw. We are having a little bit of an issue, though, because one of our lands is the Sunscorched Divide, which could prevent us from getting a play-in. But since we are running 44 lands, I think it is worth the risk. So let's go ahead and open up, and there's the Plains to make up for it. So let's go ahead and play Brushland and go to turn 2. We drew a Canopy Vista, so we can play this Plains and tap 2 and go ahead and activate this Farseek. We're going to use Farseek to grab Smoldering Marsh because it has 2 of the colors that we do not have access to in our board yet. And the Sunscorched Divide can only give us these colors if we filter it, so we don't want to rely on it. Next turn comes around and we have a Deceptive Land Base, or Deceptive Landscape. Let's go ahead and play our Sunscorched Divide and tap 1, 2, 3 and get that Elvish Rejuvenator on the board. Now we can put one of these lands into our hand, and again, our deck is made up of mostly lands, but somehow we still managed to whiff. None of these are lands in a 44 land deck. So, yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you miss the hit, and that sucks. So we're going to go to our next turn, and we've drawn a Colony Ambush. That would have been a land. Let's play the Deceptive Landscape, and let's go ahead and tap everything out to get that Garruk's Pack Leader on the board. This will give us access to draw in the following turns, and we honestly do need that. So let's move on to turn 5, and we have an Exotic Orchard. We don't have access to Bladewing the Risen right now. We don't need it. So I think the best thing we can do is crack our Deceptive Landscape to get a basic land out of the deck so we have better color fixing. And the one thing we are missing is blue mana, so let's grab an island. Well, it can't grab an island, but we can grab a swamp with it. We can also play Canopy Vista untapped now, thanks to that move, and we can tap 3 to play Dragon's Horde, giving us a little more mana. This also means Tiamat can now come down on turn 6, a turn earlier than it normally would. I would have liked to do this a turn earlier, but Elvish Rejuvenator whiffed on its mana, which sucks for us, but we're just going to have to deal with the repercussions of that. So we move on to turn 6, and we're going to play Exotic Orchard. We're going to tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to get Tiamat on the board. Now we get to tutor our deck for 5 dragons. We're going to go for an explosive turn, so we're getting Miriam, Ganax, Swashbuckler Extraordinary, Patron of the Arts, and Two-Headed Hellkite, with the Hellkite going into the graveyard at the end of our turn because we just do not need it. Let's also tap the Dragon's Horde to draw an extra card and throw another card in our hand into the graveyard when our turn concludes. Let's go ahead and say it's the Ganax. We don't need that right now. Now, our next turn comes up, and we've drawn Prairie Stream. Let's tap that. Pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or just 6, and we're going to get Miriam Sentinel Worm on the board. Miriam can make us copies of any dragons when we play them, so let's pay 1, 2, 3, and get Patron of the Arts on the board. This is going to make us 2 treasure tokens we're going to use in a follow-up turn. We are at turn 8, and this is where we are going to have a gigantic turn available to us. We need 2 black mana and 2 red mana to make this turn work. So we are going to generate that, and then 3 of any color mana at all. This is going to put Bladewing the Risen on the board. Bladewing the Risen is going to be copied by Miriam, but that Bladewing that's a copy is going to die automatically. But that doesn't matter to us. All that matters is that we get 2 dragons out of our graveyard immediately, and that's going to be Ganax, Astral Hunter, and Two-Headed Hellkite. Because Miriam's on the board, we are going to make a copy of Ganax, Astral Hunter, and we are going to make a copy of the Two-Headed Hellkite. Because 2 Ganaxes have touched the board, we are going to spawn 3 treasure tokens because they will see each other. And now that we have the 3 treasure tokens, the 2 Ganaxes will see the 2 Two-Headed Hellkites. This will generate 1, 2, 3, 4 more treasure tokens that we have access to. Now, all that's left to do is get a little more stuff on the board. Each of these spawns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, gives us 6 draws. And with 6 draws, we've gotten a bunch of lands out of our deck, which isn't the best in the world. But what we're going to do now is we are going to use 1, 2, 3 of these treasures to spawn not 1, but 2 Swashbuckler Extraordinaires. Both of these Extraordinaires touching the board will generate 4 treasure tokens thanks to Miriam. Now we have enough mana to cast whatever the fuck we please. We can also sacrifice 1 or more treasure tokens to make that many creatures have double strike. And remember, we have the twin-headed Hellkites. They have flying and haste. So we're going to be swinging at somebody with Miriam and the Hellkites all at once. We're going to sacrifice 1, 2, 3, 4 treasure tokens so that all of them have double strike. And the Hellkite swinging will draw us 1, 2, 3, 4 more cards. Now we have a ton of things in our hand, and really, it's almost too much. We really can do whatever the fuck we want at this point. I could show you a turn 9 where we start casting cards and digging through our deck and finding all kinds of nutty things, but we just don't need to do that right now. We've spawned a giant board. We've eliminated 1 player out of the game. This is 40 damage. This is over 40 damage aimed at 1 person right here. The other 2 players are sitting there shitting their pants right now. That's what happens when you tutor 5 dragons from your deck into your hand. It's kind of insane. Honestly, though, I think it's going to be very hard to upgrade a deck like this because the whole point is to just spawn bullshit big dragons. But I'm going to try. We're going to focus on something very, very specific since we are talking about a 5-color mana base. So this part of the video is going to be a little weird. Usually I would talk about all kinds of things you should use to upgrade the deck, but instead I'm just going to go ahead and shill something that I made a few months ago that can help anybody with one of these kinds of builds upgrade their deck in general. and it's my land guide. It is a fairly comprehensive database of every land worth using in Commander. There's currently 545 cards in the list, and if there's anything I'm missing, then please consider letting me know so I can populate the list with more cards that are missing in the decks. That said, if you look through here, everything is sorted first. If you click Enable Tags, everything is sorted first by what type of land they are in terms of guild and shard. So all the Abzan lands are here, all the Azorius lands are here, Bant lands, Boros lands, etc. But if you go further down, you'll notice that I have things grouped by their categories as well. The new WUBRG lands that came out of Duskmourn are here in their own area. Artifact lands are here as well. All of the different ones you could run if you're running an artifact deck, with Battle Bond lands having their own section, Bicycle lands, Bounce lands, Check lands, Cycling lands, Deserts for people who are running deserts, and if you go all the way down, you can even find various utility lands that I think are worth running in multiple different colors. There's 14 different utility lands in blue that I think are worth running. There's about 16 different ones in black I think are worth running, and if you decide that you want other things as well that just aren't on this list, again, just hit me up. If something is missing in here, I want to make sure this is a resource that every player has access to that is able to help them upgrade and sculpt their decks to the best of their abilities. Yes, we have dual land guides and all kinds of stuff on the internet already, but I think people struggle with mana bases a lot because there isn't anything built for them to just quickly look through to make their life super easy. That's what this is built to do. And if you end up using it, then let me know in the comment section below. I think that for upgrading this deck, the best thing you can do is put some shock lands in it, put some surveil lands in it, put some stuff that can be yanked out with Nature's Lore and Farseek, and some fetch lands, especially since they're so cheap right now at like $7 each for the Windswept Heath. Honestly, if you are upgrading your deck and you use my guide, just let me know in the comment section below so I can know that somebody was helped by this. That said, I really think you'll enjoy this deck. I didn't expect to build this deck. It wasn't really on my list of to-dos. I just saw the comment. And started working on it. And so here we are. That said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, insert into video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravelern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Agamotto, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.